The room is quiet. Not the heavy kind, just still. He sits on the edge of his bed, phone face down, listening to the hum of the heater click on and off. No voices drifting in from another room. No forced schedules, no rehearsed smiles waiting for him on the other side of a door. It's Christmas morning, and he's alone. For a moment, his mind drifts backward, without effort, to last year. So, who got the most gifts? Someone had said, half laughing. A few people chuckled, not because it was funny, because silence felt worse. Well, hers are bigger, an uncle added, nodding toward the tree. Yeah, but mine's heavier, someone replied. His parents sat across from each other, careful in a way that felt louder than fighting. His mother kept adjusting the napkins. His father checked his phone too often, too polite, too distant. His sister tore open wrapping paper. Oh, wow, she said. Everyone waited. I love it, she added quickly. The adults relaxed, just a little. He watched it all from the couch. Relatives, friends, noise, movement, and yet it felt like he was standing in an empty space no one else could see. That was the moment it landed in his chest, clear and unmistakable. I've never felt more alone than I do right now. The memory fades. He's back in his room, back in the quiet. This Christmas, he didn't come back. He didn't disappear. He didn't give up. He chose not to return. And for the first time in years, his body feels calm. Loneliness doesn't arrive the same way for everyone. For some, it's chosen. For others, it's inherited from circumstance, and the holidays intensify both. What happened to him didn't start this year. It didn't even start the year his parents divorced. It started quietly, in moments that looked ordinary from the outside. Holidays where everyone showed up, sat close, exchanged gifts, and followed the script of what a family gathering is supposed to look like. Nothing overtly cruel, nothing dramatic enough to point to, just a steady absence of something essential. This is how emotional neglect often works. It doesn't announce itself. It hides inside tradition. When parents are emotionally preoccupied by conflict, resentment, exhaustion, or the careful politeness that follows a divorce, children feel it long before they understand it. They sense the tension beneath the surface. They notice the pauses in conversation, the way laughter feels timed instead of spontaneous, the way adults are physically present but emotionally elsewhere. So the child adapts. He learns quickly that holidays aren't a place to bring his full self. They're a place to be agreeable, to not add weight to an already strained room, to keep things smooth, to stay out of the way of adult emotions that feel too big, too fragile, or too volatile. Connection quietly gets replaced with performance. This is where parentification begins, not always through responsibility, but through awareness. The child becomes the emotional weather monitor. He watches faces, tracks tone shifts, knows when to stay quiet, knows when to smile, knows when to disappear into himself so the room can stay intact. His nervous system learns something important. This environment isn't overtly dangerous, but it isn't safe either. So it stays alert. That alertness becomes hypervigilance, not panic, not fear, just a constant low-level readiness. Scanning, adjusting, managing, even during celebrations meant to feel warm. That's why family gatherings can be so exhausting for children like him. Not because of the people, but because of the internal work required to stay acceptable inside the system. By the end of the day, the exhaustion isn't social. It's neurological. And over time, the body remembers. the tightening in the chest before gatherings, the shallow breathing, the sense of dread that doesn't make logical sense. These aren't signs of ingratitude. They're signs of a nervous system that learned early on that being fully present wasn't welcome. So when he chooses to be alone this Christmas, it looks like loneliness from the outside, but internally, something else happens. The hypervigilance turns off. There's no room to manage, no emotional temperature to regulate, no version of himself he has to maintain to keep things peaceful. The quiet isn't empty, it's spacious. This is why solitude can feel like relief instead of sadness for some people. Not because they don't want connection, but because the connection they were offered required them to disappear. This is the core reframe. He didn't choose loneliness. He chose honesty. Physical solitude is not the same as emotional abandonment. One is visible, the other is deeply destabilizing. Sitting alone in a quiet room allows the nervous system to settle. Sitting unseen in a crowded one keeps it on constant alert. And this choice isn't punishment. It isn't withdrawal meant to hurt anyone. It's a boundary. Boundaries aren't about rejection. They're about protection. Choosing absence, in this case, is self-preservation. It's listening to what the body has been communicating for years. It's acknowledging that showing up as things were came at too high a cost. There doesn't need to be a villain for this to be true. Parents can love deeply and still be emotionally unavailable. Families can try their best and still create environments where children learn to shrink. Divorce can be handled politely and still leave a child feeling unsupported. This story isn't about blame. It's about internal experience. And internally, choosing to be alone by choice does something important. It reduces chaos. It quiets the nervous system. It allows a person to exist without performing. This isn't a rejection of love. It's a refusal of self-erasure. And for the first time, that refusal feels like peace. Not everyone who is alone during the holidays chose it. That's important to say out loud. For some people, solitude arrives after years of clarity, after recognizing what certain spaces cost them and deciding quietly not to pay that price anymore. Their loneliness is shaped by choice, by boundaries, by an internal decision to protect something fragile and important. But for others, being alone has nothing to do with clarity. It comes from circumstance, from distance, from work that pulls people away, from loss, from life unfolding in ways no one planned, from empty chairs that were never meant to be empty. The quiet looks the same from the outside, but it carries a very different weight inside. And to understand loneliness honestly, we have to make room for both experiences. Because sometimes being alone is an act of self-preservation, and sometimes it's something you endure, one slow, quiet moment at a time. Sorry, Mom, I couldn't make it this year. She reads the line slowly, as if it might change if she gives it enough time. Work got complicated. Flights were impossible. The letter is folded once, neat, careful, the way her daughter has always been careful with her words. Merry Christmas. I love you. The house is quiet, not empty, just still. Outside, snow drifts down in soft, patient layers, pressing against the windows as if the world itself is slowing. She sets the letter on the table and stands. Her movements are unhurried. There's no urgency to fill the space. She turns on the oven and begins preparing the pie she planned to share. The radio hums low in the background. A familiar song plays, and she lets it pass without finishing the chorus. When the pie is ready, She cuts 2 slices. One goes on a plate, the other on the floor. Her dog's tail taps once, then again. She sits at the table and eats slowly. No tears, no collapse. Just the quiet awareness of what is and what isn't. She thinks of her daughter somewhere else, doing her best, living a life that has grown larger than the house it came from. The absence hurts, but it isn't sharp. It's soft, manageable. Later, wrapped in a blanket, she sits by the window and watches the snow fall. The night stretches on, unbothered by plans that didn't work out. She breathes. The dog curls up beside her. Life, she realizes, doesn't stop when expectations don't arrive. It simply continues, asking her to stay with it. Involuntary loneliness carries a different psychological weight. It isn't born from clarity or choice. It comes from loss, distance, and the slow, often invisible shifts of adulthood. Children grow up. Work pulls them across cities or countries. Relationships change. Sometimes partners die. Sometimes families drift without conflict, without blame, just carried apart by time and circumstance. This kind of loneliness is not rejection. That distinction matters. When a parent is alone during the holidays because their child couldn't come home, the nervous system processes the absence differently than it does in estrangement. The bond is still intact. Love is still present. What's missing is proximity, not attachment. And that creates a particular emotional experience, grief layered with meaning. Neurologically, this kind of loneliness doesn't trigger the same threat response seen in emotionally unsafe environments. There may be sadness, longing, and quiet disappointment, but the body isn't bracing for emotional harm. Instead, it moves into a slower state, a kind of low-energy alertness, not panic, not collapse, just a subdued ache. This is why people in this position often feel both sad and strangely steady at the same time. They miss someone deeply, but they aren't losing themselves in the absence. Psychologically, the task here isn't avoidance, it's adaptation. Avoidance would look like numbing, pretending the absence doesn't matter, filling every moment with noise. Adaptation looks quieter. It's learning how to regulate emotions internally when the external source of connection isn't available. Allowing grief to exist without letting it take over the entire sense of self. Over time, this requires a shift in purpose. For many parents, especially those who have devoted decades to caregiving, identity becomes intertwined with being needed. When children leave, that role loosens, not abruptly, but enough to leave a hollow space where daily meaning once lived. Involuntary loneliness forces a gentle but necessary reckoning. Who am I when I'm not actively caring for someone else? This is not a question that demands immediate answers. It unfolds slowly, through routines, through small acts of continuity, through choosing to prepare a meal even when it's only for one, through maintaining rhythms that say, "My life still deserves attention." Pets often play a powerful role here, not as replacements, but as attachment figures that provide presence without demand. Caring for an animal restores a sense of reciprocity. There is warmth, responsiveness, a reason to stay anchored in the day. The nervous system recognizes this as safe connection, even when human connection is temporarily distant. This is how continuity of care forms. Care doesn't disappear, it redirects. And in that redirection, something important happens. The person begins to inhabit their own life again, not as a waiting room for someone else's return, but as a space that can still hold meaning, routine, and quiet satisfaction. Strength in this context isn't forced independence. It's not pretending you don't miss anyone. It's not hardening yourself against longing. It's quiet resilience. It's allowing life to widen after years of devotion to others. Letting the days contain more than waiting. Accepting that love can remain real even when presence changes. This kind of loneliness doesn't ask a person to become someone else. It asks them to keep living, gently, steadily, and with compassion for the life they've already given. At first glance, their stories seem unrelated. One chose distance. The other was left with it. One stepped away to protect himself. The other stayed and learned to endure absence. But beneath the surface, their experiences begin to meet in the same quiet place. Both are alone, not as a failure, not as a punishment, but as a condition they are learning to live inside without collapsing. Both are discovering what happens when there is no audience, no role to perform, no one else's expectations to manage. When the noise falls away, what remains is the self, unfiltered and unaccompanied. And in that space, something subtle begins to form. They learn how to sit with themselves without distraction, how to feel longing without being consumed by it, how to let emotions move through them instead of outsourcing regulation to the presence of others. This is where internal steadiness develops. Not because connection stops mattering, but because worth is no longer borrowed from it. Happiness, in this sense, becomes anchored rather than dependent, rooted inside instead of tethered to who shows up or who doesn't. Aloneness, here, is not a sentence handed down by circumstance or choice. It's a skill being practiced. The ability to remain intact in quiet, to exist without shrinking, to stay present in one's own life. Different paths brought them here, but the ground they're standing on is the same. This isn't an argument against family. It isn't a rejection of connection, and it isn't a celebration of isolation for its own sake. It's a quiet redefinition. Happiness, when it's driven entirely by who shows up, who stays, or who fills the room, is fragile. It rises and falls with circumstance. But happiness that begins internally, through learning how to regulate, how to stay present, how to care for oneself, has a different quality. It's steadier, less dramatic, more resilient. This kind of resilience isn't about hardening or becoming self-sufficient in a way that shuts others out. It's about adapting to reality without losing oneself in the process. About discovering that being alone doesn't automatically mean being disconnected from love. Love doesn't disappear in solitude. It changes shape. When worth is no longer outsourced to presence, connection becomes a choice rather than a survival strategy. Relationships are entered into because they add meaning, not because they fill a void that feels unbearable. Time spent alone becomes space for reflection instead of proof of failure. This is a learning process. It unfolds slowly, through small adjustments, through moments of discomfort that don't need to be escaped, through discovering what actually nourishes rather than distracts. Being alone doesn't erase the capacity to love others. In many cases, it refines it. It clarifies what feels safe, mutual, and real. And from that place, connection, when it comes, is no longer something to cling to. It's something to meet. Some people are alone because life slowly carried them away from the people they love. Distance, time, work, and change did what no one intended The connection is still there, just out of reach. Others are alone because closeness once required them to disappear, because being present meant shrinking, because staying meant silencing parts of themselves that needed space to breathe. Both experiences are human, both carry weight, both deserve dignity. Being alone in itself is not the failure. It isn't proof that something went wrong or that someone wasn't enough. Aloneness can arrive through loss or through clarity or through a quiet moment of self-preservation that no one else sees. What costs more than solitude is losing yourself while trying to belong. This is what the stories share beneath their differences. The quiet learning that presence without authenticity is emptier than solitude with integrity. The understanding that love does not disappear just because the room is quiet. Sometimes it changes shape. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it turns inward, asking to be tended there first. And in that stillness, something remains intact. Not certainty, not answers. Just the simple truth that staying whole matters more than staying surrounded.